followed by the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag. Our Father, who art in heaven, as a body we congregate in this council chambers for the betterment of our fellow citizens, lead us that we may do all things well. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we get going this evening, I'd ask everyone to please join in a moment of silence for the passing of Bridget Kelly. Bridget was a former Norwood councilperson, state representative, and Hamilton County auditor who passed away Tuesday. So if we could keep her family in our prayers and have a moment of silence. Thank you. All right, clerk, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Morton?
Here.
Mr. Stuchel?
Here.
Mr. Edwards?
Here.
Ms. Hausfeld?
Here.
Mr. Schildmeyer?
Here.
Mr. Culbertson?
Here.
And Mr. Estep?
Here.
Let the record show that all 7 members are present. Members of council, what is your pleasure on the reading of the last minutes? I'll tell you what, Mr. Schultmeyer, let's make this easy. I'll entertain a motion to dispense with the reading of the last minutes.
So I make that motion.
I second that.
A motion and a second to dispense with the reading of the last minutes. All those in favor say aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Ayes have it. Members of council, are there any errors or corrections to the minutes as submitted? All right. We will move to reports of city officials. Mayor, Mr. Stuchel.
One moment, Mayor. Again, this evening, we recognize Bridget Kelly. She was a huge advocate for Hamilton County, and during her tenure as state representative, always looked out for St. Bernard. She set the ultimate example of what a public servant should be, and her passing has left a huge hole in the heart of Cincinnati. This evening, I have Meyer Steele. He is a 6th grader at St. Bartolome Place Elementary. He likes to read, he enjoys the outdoors, collecting things, and likes to memorize digits of pi.
Thank you, Mr. President. So tonight is our annual Scout Night here in the village. I would like to welcome our Scouts and their families this evening, and tonight I had the pleasure of meeting with the Scouts to answer their questions and hear their suggestions about how we can improve the community. I am proud to say that we have the next generation of future leaders amongst us this evening. The Easter Bunny will be traveling around the village on Saturday, March 30th. Our furry friend will be traveling around the village this Saturday to see all of the kids and their families before the much anticipated Easter egg hunt. We will start around 9:15 a.m., so be ready when you hear the sirens, but you can also use the bunny tracker to see where we are. If you miss us, please try to advance to another location. If you're unable to do so, please call the Easter Bunny's escort, Paul Schildmeyer, at 513-290-5937, and we will circle back to you. This Saturday at 9 a.m., the Easter Bunny tracker will go live, and we will share the link on both the village and recreation department Facebook pages and on the village website. Please spread the word and share the link so that everyone is ready. Don't forget the Easter egg hunt from 1 to 2 p.m. at Vine Street Park. This is rain or shine, so if there's an inclement weather, it will be moved inside the pavilion. We Thrive is back in St. Bernard. We will be meeting on the 2nd Tuesday of each month at 7 p.m. in the main hall of the municipal building. Please consider getting involved as we will focus on the health and wellness of our community. If you have any questions about this program, please feel free to contact either me at 513-543-3780 or Council Member Gus Stuchel at 513-543-9044. Councilmember Ray Culbertson and I recently met with the new board for Alpine Terrace and the new property management company, Town Properties, and I have to say that I am optimistic about this new partnership. We both have been fielding complaints and concerns from both residents of Alpine Terrace and those surrounding their complex. Both the board and Town Properties want to make this better for everyone, and we have committed to assisting in their efforts. We are currently working with them on a proposal for taking over garbage collection for Alpine Terrace, and as of today, I have made an agreement to remove furniture and large items that will not fit in the dumpsters for a fee until a contract is signed. The Emmanuel United Church of Christ Guided Reality Youth Group, Sunday, April 7th from 12 noon to 2 p.m., as they will be hosting a spaghetti lunch fundraiser and will be bringing back the Bookworm Diner with yours truly, Mayor Jonathan Stuchel, as the guest reader. Again, Emmanuel United Church of Christ is located at 210 Jefferson Avenue, corner of Jefferson and Tower. This is a free will offering event. I encourage the passage of resolution number 2 as the Village of St. Bernard's commitment to being an equal opportunity employer. Lastly, the mayor is requesting a short meeting tonight as he and the scouts are heading to Dairy Queen.
Thank you very much, and we'll hope that we can honor that request. He has finished, Jonathan? Yes. Go to Auditor, Ms. Brickley.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Auditor's Office has prepared ordinance number 7, 2024 for tonight's meeting. It has an additional appropriation into General Fund 2I9 Professional Services of $10,000 and Master Plan 05 MP9 Streets and Sewers for $4,300. This was all discussed at the Committee of the Whole, and that concludes my report.
Thank you. Director of Law, Ms. Van Valkenburg.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to introduce
Braden Miller.
who will be reading my report this evening.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have prepared Ordinance 8, 2024, which amends Section 105.01 of the St. Bernard Codified Ordinance. Ordinance 8, 2024 will amend Section 105.01 of the Codified Ordinance to conform with Section 2.02 of the Charter, and I would urge that you pass Ordinance 8, 2024. You also, before you Resolution 2, 2024, the resolution reflects St. Bernard's own ongoing commitment to wage equity. I would recommend passage of Resolution 2, 2024. Lastly, I would ask that we go into executive session this evening to discuss ongoing litigation matters. Thank you.
Thank you. Safety and Service, nothing. Tax Administrator, Ms. Helms.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a recap of the February 2024 end-of-month receipts. Tax collections for February 2024 were $610,728. February of 2024 is down 0.32% or $1,957 from February of 2023. Refunds for February were $46,798. Delinquent tax collected with capital recovery was $437. Delinquent tax collected with the Ohio Attorney General's Office was $22,716. Just a reminder, St. Bernard tax returns are due on April 15th. This is the same date that your federal and state tax returns are due. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. We'll now move to reports of standing committees. Finance, Mr. Morton.
It's my pleasure to introduce Colt Maddox. He's a junior and just found out today, huge accomplishment, is also the valedictorian of his grade, which I just think is incredible. He's looking forward to pursuing his Eagle Scout honor and hopefully getting that next year. And we'll be reading the Finance Committee report on behalf of myself today.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today I'll be reading the report from the Finance Committee in place of Councilman Morton. The next scheduled Finance Committee meeting is set for Wednesday, April 17th at 6:30 p.m. in the lower level of City Hall. I'm excited to share the details of our April Community Connect, as it will be hosted at 5 Star Mediterranean from 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. on Thursday, April 4th. Please join in the conversation while enjoying the amazing Mediterranean food our local restaurant has to offer. Attendees will also be highly encouraged to stop by Dairy Queen afterwards to welcome in the warmer weather. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Service, Mr. Gustugel.
Tonight I have the pleasure of having Landon Cole read my report. Landon has been involved with the Boy Scouts for over 5 years. He's a 6th grader at St. Clement Elementary. His favorite sports are basketball and baseball, and his favorite subject at St. Clement is history with his favorite teacher, Mr. Miha.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have the 2023 storm sewer report in numbers. 2 sewers were repaired by the service department. No sewers were repaired by outside contractors. The service department's leaf truck operated from October 2nd through December 12th. A total of 420 cubic yards of leaves were collected and composted on village property. The service department's street sweeper removed a total of 335 yards of debris from our roadways. 92 tons of sod was spread by service department road crews to improve winter road conditions. 150 gallons of used oil was recycled to local businesses for use as fuel. Lastly, I'd like to remind everyone of our upcoming cleanup, St. Bernard Day, on April 28th, from 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. I am asking all participants to meet in the lower lot of City Hall prior to the start of the event, where trash bags and garbage pickers will be distributed for use. All the conclusions of the event, I would like to invite all of those interested to come by the pavilion at Vine Street Park for a grill out, thanking you for contributing to making our community a cleaner place to live. Whether you all participated in the event or not, all are welcome. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Public Improvements, Mr. Edwards.
Thank you, Mr. President. Tonight, reading my report will be Dominic Stropman. His mom and dad are Kevin and Teresa Stropman. Dominic goes to LaSalle High School, and his sports are track and field. What I like about Dominic, I've met him at the St. Clement he volunteers at the St. Clement Food Pantry on a regular basis, and he's been a scout for about 10 years.
Thank you, Mr. President. There was no need for a public improvement to May meeting this month. I would like to report on the St. Bernard Yodel Dove Society and its last meeting. Bob Dennings presented a late podium on the Cincinnati Union Terminal. There were about 50 people in attendance. The podium was both informational and entertaining. I would like to encourage all to attend future meetings that held every month. And then I enjoy the podiums every month, but especially enjoy connecting with so many people with young histories in St. Bernard. You can sense the pride that these two and past residents have in our community. I believe the same interaction with our newer residents can expand this pride to this and future generations. Knowing some of the issues that have been developing in our faiths in the last 10 or 20 years, I believe a day or knowledge of our history can grow the sense of pride in all of us. This can solve many problems The meetings are held on the third Monday of the month at 7 p.m. and then 7 p.m. in the main level of the municipal building. Yes, strive to cultivate the same sense of pride in our faith as the Boy Scouts do and their members. Thank you, Mr. President. This concludes my report.
Thank you. Safety, Ms. Hausfeld.
Thank you, Mr. President. Tonight, giving the safety report is Ryan. Ryan is a fifth grader at St. Clemens, and he enjoys science. He loves to play soccer and tennis, and he has been in Scouts for around 5 years. Tonight, I give you Ryan.
With our spring hopefully right around the corner, I want to take this opportunity to remind everyone to be aware of bicyclists and to offer some bike safety tips. Protect your head. Always wear a helmet. Test your bike each time before you ride it. Check the brakes, wheels, tires, and seat. Stay visible. Wear bright or reflective clothes and avoid biking at night. Use lights and reflectors if you must bike at night. Stay alert. Look for obstacles in the road and for other cars. Do not wear a headset or use your phone while bicycling. You need to hear what's going on and stay focused. Always keep your hands on the handlebars at all times to help maintain control. Learn the rules on the road and obey all traffic laws. You have the same rules as a car. Go with the flow. The safe way is the right way. Ride with the flow of traffic and not in the opposite direction. Be predictable. Don't weave it in and out of traffic. Ride far enough away from parked vehicles, about 4 feet, in case someone starts to open the door to exit the vehicle. Thank you, and have a safe, fun spring and summer. This concludes our report, Mr. President.
Thank you. Laws, contracts, and claims, Mr. Schulmeyer.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to introduce Liam Schulmeyer. His parents are Ben and Mindy Schulmeyer here in St. Bernard. Liam is a sixth grader at St. Clement. He has been in Troop 354 for about 5 years, and his rank is Scout. Liam's favorite sports are soccer and football. Liam will be presenting the Laws, Contracts, and Claims Committee report.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Laws, Contracts, and Claims meet on Tuesday, March 19th at 7 p.m. in council chambers. Items on the agenda included 1, short and long-term rentals, 2, the current trees, weeds, and litter ordinance, 3, potential golf cart community ordinance, 4, council attendance policy. At this time, the committee has elected to table any discussions regarding a potential golf cart community ordinance. The committee discussed proposed changes to the current ordinances that refer to short and long-term rentals and trees, weeds, and litter. For these topics, the law director is currently preparing proposed revised language to review at the next committee meeting. The committee also came to consensus a language pertaining to a council attendance policy. The law director is currently preparing language for review at the next committee meeting for this topic as well. The next Laws, Contracts, and Claims Committee meeting has been set for Tuesday, April 23rd at 7 p.m. in council chambers. That concludes my report, Mr. President.
Thank you. Marketing, Mr. Culbertson.
Thanks, Mr. President. Tonight, reading the marketing report is Garrett Horn. Garrett is the son of Gary and Angie Horn. He's a member of Troop 354 and a St. Clement sixth grader. He enjoys playing basketball and soccer. I give you Garrett.
Thank you, Mr. President. This year's St. Bernard German Luau will take place on Friday, August 2nd and Saturday, August 3rd. The music headlines on Friday night will be the widely popular Naked Karate Girls. On Saturday night, it will be Velvet Crush. Both bands will be playing from 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. The Garden Club would like to let everyone know that 8 beds are left for this upcoming season. If interested, please contact Ken Price at kennethprice916@yahoo.com. Finally, I would like to thank Mayor Stuchel for meeting with me and the Alpine Condo Association, along with the new Alpine Management Company. Things are moving in the right direction. Thank you, Mr. President, and that concludes my report.
Thank you. Business and Industry, Mr. Estep.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have the pleasure of introducing Cooper Steele. He'll be reading the report for the business and industry. Cooper is currently a 9th grader at St. Bernard High School. He is the son of Cody and Monica Steele. He has 2 brothers. His hobbies are soccer and video games. He's been in Scouts since the 3rd grade. His goals, he's still not real sure, and I understand that. And he likes to read on the side. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Estep is the chair of the Business and Industry Committee. He is in the process of meeting with the officials of the 2 schools to attend a council meeting to share what is going on in their districts. Get well soon, Ms. Abrams. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Committee of the Whole, Ms. Stegman.
Thank you, Mr. President. Minutes were submitted yesterday, the 27th, and I have no communications this evening.
Thank you. At this time, Clerk, I will ask you to please read Special Resolution Number 1, 2024 in its entirety.
Special Resolution Number 1, 2024, declaring the Outdoor Code of St. Bernard, designating all Boy Scouts and Cub Scouts in the community honorary park policemen, and asking all of the young people of the St. Bernard to honor this code. Whereas the Boy Scout and Cub Scout programs encourage community betterment as well as individual member improvement, and whereas Boy Scouts and Cub Scouts are special citizens who knows their duty to follow men and to their fellow men and will face oppositions to do what they know is right. And whereas St. Bernard youth is interested in a better St. Bernard of the future now, therefore, be it resolved by the Boy Scouts and Cub Scouts of the Village of St. Bernard, State of Ohio, by a unanimous vote of the members voting. Section 1, I will treat the outdoors as a heritage to be improved by our greater enjoyment. I will keep my trash and garbage out of America's waters, fields, woods, and roadways. Section 2, I will prevent wildfire. I will build a fire in a safe place and be sure it is out before I leave. Section 3, I will treat public and private property with respect. I will remember that use of all outdoor is a privilege I can lose by abuse. Section 4, I will learn how to practice good conservation of soil, waters, forests, minerals, grasslands, and wildlife, and I will urge others to do the same. I will use sportsmanlike methods in all my outdoor activities. Section 5, I will observe bicycle safety rules and obey all traffic laws when operating my bicycle or walking around the streets of St. Bernard.
Members of council, you've heard the Special Resolution Number 1, 2024. I will entertain a motion to adopt Special Resolution Number 1 as read.
I make a motion to adopt.
I second that.
A motion by Mr. Schultmeyer, seconded by Mr. Edwards, I believe, to adopt Special Resolution Number 1, 2024. Clerk, will you call the roll?
Mr. Morton?
Aye.
Mr. Stuchel?
Aye.
Mr. Edwards?
Aye.
Ms. Hausfeld?
Aye.
Mr. Schildmeyer?
Aye.
Mr. Culbertson?
Aye.
And Mr. Estep?
Aye.
7 ayes, no nays. Special Resolution Number 1, 2024 is adopted as read. At this time, I'll turn the meeting over to the mayor, and then after he is done, we will take a short recess after that.
Thank you, Mr. President. This evening, we are going to be honoring our esteemed scouts that were here this evening. Again, you've made us all very proud, and we really appreciate your presence. This evening, I have certificates and pins. So at this time, as I call your name, if you would please step up to receive that. First, we have Landon Cole. Next, we have Garrett Horn. Thank you again for being here. Colt Maddox. Thank you. Braden Miller. Congratulations, thank you. Ben Radecki. Oh, I'm sorry, got it, all right. Ryan Radecki. Thank you very much. Next, we have Liam Schildmeyer. Next, we have Cooper Steele. Next, we have Mayor Meyer Steele. Congratulations. Thank you. And of course, the very famous Dominic Stratman. Again, thank you again for being here. And again, thank you for making us proud every day. We appreciate it.
All right, we thank all the scouts and their parents for coming this evening. I believe you guys are being required to stay, so I'll let you guys all excuse yourselves, and you guys can head to the seats up there, and we'll let the people behind you take over again. We can do it now. Oh. All right, we'll get back underway then. Clerk, will you please give the first reading of Resolution Number 2, 2024?
Resolution number 2, 2024, a resolution honoring Women's History Month and authorizing the mayor to sign the Hamilton County Commission of Women and Girls Pay Equity Commitment and declaring an emergency.
Members of council, you've heard the first reading of Resolution Number 2, 2024. What is your pleasure?
Mr. President,
Mr. Morton?
before going to a vote, I did want to comment a bit since we got to.
We'll do remarks after the.
Oh, I'm
usually
sorry.
After the motion, I go to remarks.
Okay.
That's all right. You can make the motion to suspend with the second.
Okay, sorry.
That's all right.
I guess I needed someone to write a report for me too. Yeah. I'd like to make a motion to suspend with the second and third readings.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Morton, seconded by Mr. Stuchel, to suspend with the second and third reading of Resolution Number 2, 2024. Are there any remarks? Mr. Morton?
Got it. Thank you so much. As part of the discussion on this resolution, I do want to offer some more detail and perspective as to why I believe that we should include the pay gap statistics pertaining to the intersectionality of race and gender within this resolution. And I do want to acknowledge, and I know that at the last meeting, I did too hastily ask our law director to remove that section of the resolution in an effort to make the resolution more passable in line with some great advice that I did once receive to not let my idea of perfect be the enemy of good progress. Although I still do believe in that advice, and I am dedicated to passing some version of this resolution, I should have let the discussion continue a little bit longer with my fellow council members so that I can gauge their sentiment as well. First, though, I do want to share why I believe it's important to keep this language. We have the opportunity here to set a precedent on how we go about discussing complicated issues. And I believe that it is important for us to leverage people's experiences, and I am genuinely grateful that we can still have a discussion with dissenting views. I also believe that we should trust science and data and research and be sure to hold them in high regard in our conversations as well. I wholeheartedly trust that what we heard at last meeting, that the women of our administration have been paid fairly, and I do hope and believe that that is the case across all of our other departments as well, and I do fully trust and believe that. But just to reiterate, the intent and purpose of this resolution is not to accuse our village of contributing to the gender pay gap by any means. It's not to accuse our village of contributing to the race pay gap. Its purpose is to unify our village's leadership under this shared understanding that these gaps exist in statewide averages, and that we commit to be a leader and beacon of inclusivity in this regard. I believe that the true purpose is indicative in this language, given the context and goal of the Hamilton County Commission of Women and Girls. But when we look at the numbers, the facts of the matter is that the gender pay gap is further exacerbated when you factor in race. This proves the intersectionality of the issue. And if we truly want to publicly position our village as an inclusive space for folks regardless of their gender, then it's important to understand the margins of the issue as well and the interconnectedness and be sure to acknowledge it. Now, my belief is that we should keep the language pertaining to this intersectionality, and after discussing this more with my fellow council members, I would like to vote to go back to the previous version that was read at the Committee of the Whole with the proper amendments. However, if you choose to disagree with me, I still would like to push for the amended version without that one whereas section to pass, because I think this is really, really important to show our sentiment as leaders of our community. And with that, though, I do want to continue the conversation with my fellow council members. As I have to admit, I believe I did a poor job of doing that last time. I want to open the floor to y'all as well to get your ideas on this resolution, specifically pertaining to if you believe that that section should remain in agreement with me, or if you respectfully disagree.
Are there any other remarks on council?
Mr. President,
Ms. Housefeld.
just from what I'm hearing tonight, because now you're wanting the old version versus this version, I do believe that this should not be up for a vote tonight. It should be discussed in committee of the whole where everything else is discussed. And then you bring to, if this is your wish to bring the old version back, then I think you should bring that old version back to where we can discuss it as a whole. And then if there is changes or whatever that needs to be made, I think the committee of the whole is where we should discuss it, not a council meeting. That's just the way I feel.
Mr. President.
Mr. Morton.
I will say that, and I completely respect that. I absolutely want to have full conversation with this. However, with the way that the process is set up, we do have the ability to discuss it now. It's still this first reading. And although I hear what you're saying about discussing this as committee of the whole, we did just vote unanimously to suspend the second and third readings. And I don't mean to throw that back at you, but I don't believe that we would have that ability to go back. But even if we did have that ability, I would disagree. I would like to have the discussion now. All council members have both versions of this resolution. We talked about some of the amendments 2 weeks ago, and I believe that we have the ability to pass an amended version tonight, and that would be my hope. If that is not in the majority agreement of council, I would still be open to passing the version that is printed out and was passed out today.
Anyone else on council?
Yes, Mr. President.
Mr. Edwards.
Having read both versions, I thought the second one was better than the first because I thought the first was divisive. And like it was pointed out, you're always trying to find someone to blame for things. But on the other part of it, things like this really don't accomplish a whole lot, and it puts us in a weird position. Like some people in St. Bernard had told me, well, even by bringing this up, it almost makes it sound like we're doing something wrong. And I know we're doing, I don't say we do everything perfect, but with the STEP program that we have, my understanding is that there's no discrimination, everything is above board, and I thought the perfect example of us doing it right was when we passed the COVID pay, where we couldn't give it to the service department without giving it to the town hall people. And so everybody is treated equally. And so I think things like this, we can get into all kind of different things like resolutions on the board or resolutions on other things, and we should just stick to what we need to stick to in St. Bernard. Thank you.
Mr. President.
Anyone else before we go back to you with third? Anyone else on council? Any remarks?
Mr. President.
Mr. Schulmeyer?
I guess my thoughts are, I do understand that the language can feel divisive. I always like to go back, though, that it's only really divisive if there's something that's incorrect. Other than that, it's just factual data. So I don't have a big problem with the old language. Having said that, my recommendation is to go forward with this language, because I think if we think this is important, it would be better to have kind of unanimous consent about a positive thing than conflict about something that really should be positive all the way around. So that's my opinion, Connor.
Anyone else on council?
Mr. President.
Mr. Stuchel?
So I'm in favor of the original version just because, just like what Mr. Schomeyer said, it's just the facts, and then by doing so, we would be acknowledging and recognizing just the statistics that are out there, and then addressing the race and gender-based wage disparities in communities, and not necessarily that we're admitting to it happening in our community, but by passing it, we're just demonstrating a commitment to fairness and equality in the workplace.
Anyone else?
Mr. President.
Mr. Culbertson?
I'm in favor of the verbiage, the second resolution that came out tonight. I'd rather see that than the original one.
Anyone else? Did you, Mr. Morton?
Yes, Mr. President. Thank you. Mr. Edwards, I just wanted to acknowledge the 3 points that you made, because I just want to make sure that you understand that I'm hearing what you're saying and I'm understanding it correctly. So the 3 things that I heard that I brought up is the reasons why you might be in disagreement of this is that it's seen as divisive. I agree with what Mr. Schomeyer said, that things can be divisive if they are opinionated. That's why I wanted to mention and really emphasize that we need to set a precedent here in how we have conversations, because we need to really set an example for our community that we're going to leverage facts and science in very, very high regard. And like I mentioned here in the speech that I just read, we also need to leverage people's lived experiences. That is also true. But the way that it is written, it lacks opinion, and it is fully factual based off of countless peer-reviewed academic journals, articles, massive longitudinal studies. It isn't something at this point that could be debatable because it is fact, that those exist. So that's where I disagree that it's necessarily divisive. I see it as the opposite. I see it as very unifying of something that, of course, we all believe in. And as we heard a couple weeks ago, we're practicing on a village-wide level that we are paying people accordingly regardless of their gender. This is a resolution to be proud of that sentiment and to share that more broadly in cohesion with all of the other organizations that have signed on to it too, and municipalities. Before coming here tonight, because I noticed that it wasn't in that original packet, I did look at some other folks that have signed this as well, and it does bring me to my second point. You have folks like the City of Cincinnati, the City of Norwood, the City of Montgomery, the Center for Addiction Treatment, the Council on Aging of Southwest Ohio, Women Helping Women, the YWCA of Greater Cincinnati. There are over 80 organizations and municipalities that signed this last year, and there are already 30 that have re-signed it up again, including all of those municipalities that I listed off. That is Also, in respect to the second point that you brought up in terms of blame, again, like I said 2 weeks ago, that's the very last thing that I want to do. I'm not sitting here blaming our village as being guilty of contributing to this gender pay gap or the race pay gap. What I'm trying to again say, and I think that's indicative by all of these other folks that are signing on to it too. They didn't target our village and approach me or approach anyone and say, you need to sign this because you have an issue. It's something that was an open invite that I wanted to pursue and go after because I believe in that sentiment of our village, and I think that we have the ability to prove that sentiment with our vote tonight. In regards to the third point that you mentioned, that it is not needed, I think the divisiveness of our opinions on this in this conversation proves that it is needed. We need to be able to clearly state what our sentiment is as representatives and leaders of this village, of this municipality. And that's what this entirely is about. So I hear what you're saying, and I understand that first thought, but I hope that I was able to offer some clarity on why I disagree with that, and I think quite the opposite on all three of those points. And I do respect what Mr. Shieldmeyer said as well. Mr. Culbertson, I am interested in your rationale behind your vote, if you wouldn't mind. I'm sorry, I don't mean to put you on the spot.
No,
But just so that I know, because this isn't going to be the last time that something like this comes up, not necessarily like this year or this term, but things like this are going to come across our desk pretty frequently. So, and I'm a preparer, so I just want to know.
I'll go back to what some other people echoed with their thoughts. I don't like the divisiveness of it. Nothing changes other than the verbiage by going to the second one, and I just don't like the divisiveness of the first one. I'll go back to the mayor and the administration. We do what we think's right, and we're going to continue to do that. But I just don't like the negativity of the first one, or the conflict of the first one. I think the second one's much more manageable for me.
All right, anyone else?
Mr. President,
Ms. Housefeld.
I know we're going to vote on it, but sorry, Mayor, I would like to get your opinion on stuff since you're the one that's going to be signing it.
So, again, this being a resolution, the fact that I would like to give consideration to the initiative from the county level, as far as from the Hamilton County Commission of Women and Girls Pay Equity. I think this is just standing in alliance. I think that basically it's a matter of interpretation. So whether or not you go back to the original versus the version that has trimmed out some of what language might have been deemed as being, divisive, I take this as an important stance. And I think that if this coming from the county level and trickling down to the local communities, asking for partnership in standing in alliance to support this initiative, I think is the right thing to do. I think we all, including myself, when we read a document and we read potential legislation, it's a matter of interpretation. We can take an initial side. I read it the first time, the original version. I will say that I may have been, because it was my first opportunity, I may have been taken aback just a little bit as I had opportunity to absorb it a little bit further and to realize the importance of the stance, especially trying to be aligned with the county government. I think it's an important initiative to make a stance, but yet at the same time, I can say that we can stand proud by the fact that we are an equal opportunity employer. We do not discriminate by, race or color, race or sex or anything. We give equal opportunity, every opportunity we have when we have an opening in any one of our departments and anywhere in City Hall. And I feel that, we invest in our employees regardless, this is something I think we should stand by. I do believe. I think we're missing an opportunity, and to be honest with you, I'd be highly embarrassed if you passed up this opportunity. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yeah, Mr. President.
Mr. Edwards.
Well, Connor was saying he prefers the language in the first one because of the facts, and Chris said the same thing. But taking it seriously, even though it's just a resolution, after this, I went online and I got 3 articles from the Independent Women's Forum that said how it was mostly about choice, about, different people do different things. That younger women now coming out of college who aren't married and don't have kids are doing even better than young men at the same age, and that it's illegal already to discriminate. And so, again, it might be something that's nice to pass, but whose facts do you believe? Those might be good facts, but if it goes to somebody else, those are facts. And so, I don't know, I'm just to have the stance of, we shouldn't have even entertained this, but I'll vote against it if we vote for it. Thank you.
Mr. President, I'm familiar with the stats that you are citing, because with anything that you go through, I think it's important to, apply your critical thinking cap and look at something maybe from the opposition's perspective. I want to get a full rounded view of something before I form an opinion on it. And I trust that we all do that as well. I looked at those same facts. The difference there is between the controlled gender gap and the uncontrolled. And sorry for a little data lesson, but controlled means that you're taking into account different variables, like what you said, or what I believe you were saying, like the difference of choice, difference in education level, difference in experience. The uncontrolled gender pay gap is just comparing apples to apples. It is comparing all the average amount that a man would make versus the average amount that a woman would make, where the citations that you're quoting is the controlled group. And widely by statisticians, that is not the acceptable one, and has since been disproven in cases of getting insight from it, because it doesn't take into account enough of the factors. It gets too convoluted, and therefore you're not getting a true accurate insight from the data that it's looked at. So, and I don't mean to challenge your source here, but where I was looking at and I found that information was from peer-reviewed academic articles, and I am curious to hear where your source was, if it was a .com, if it was a forum, if it was actually backed by statisticians who conducted the research firsthand. Because where I was looking at, it was primary research done firsthand. They weren't even citing external sources. They went out, they did it themselves, and that was then peer-reviewed and published in various academic articles. That is the vetting process that I take. So I'm curious, I don't want to say that you found bad data, but I'd be interested on where you found it.
All right. I think that Mr. Edwards, if you'd like to answer, I think we beat this horse about as far as we can beat it. I think that it's time, we'll take there was a motion and a second to suspend with the second reading, so clerk, will you please call the roll on that suspension motion? Nobody made a motion to bring the old resolution to the table, so this is the resolution that's on the table, so the new resolution is what it was read and what we're going with.
Mr. President.
If everybody wants to vote no, we can discuss it at committee of the whole, but we don't have a version of the other resolution. This is the resolution that was brought to the table. This is the one that we need to vote on.
Yeah,
If we don't want to vote it, then vote it down, but clerk, call the roll on suspension.
Mr. Morton?
Aye.
Mr. Stuchel?
Aye.
Mr. Edwards?
Aye.
Ms. Hausfeld?
Aye.
Mr. Schildmeyer?
Aye.
Mr. Culbertson?
Aye.
And Mr. Estep?
Aye.
7 ayes, no nays, motion to suspend carries. Members of council, what is your pleasure on adoption of resolution number 2, 2024?
Mr. President.
Mr. Morton?
I'd like to motion to adopt resolution 2, 2024.
Second.
A motion by Mr. Morton, second by Mr. Stuchel to adopt resolution number 2, 2024. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Morton?
Aye.
Mr. Stuchel?
Aye.
Mr. Edwards?
No.
Ms. Hausfeld?
No.
Mr. Schildmeyer?
Aye.
Mr. Culbertson?
No.
And Mr. Estep?
Aye.
4 ayes, 3 nays, motion carries. Resolution number 2, 2024 is adopted as read. All right, clerk, will you please give the first reading of ordinance number 7, 2024?
Ordinance number 7, 2024, authorizing and directing the auditor to provide additional appropriations and declaring an emergency.
Excuse me. Members of council, you've heard the first reading of ordinance number 7, 2024. What is your pleasure?
Mr. President,
Mr. Schultmeyer?
make a motion that we dispense with the reading, or, I'm sorry, make a motion to suspend with the second and third reading.
Seconded.
A motion by Mr. Schultmeyer, second by Mr. Stuchel, Morton, Mr. Morton, to suspend with the second and third reading. Are there any remarks? If not, is there anyone in the audience wishing to address council on ordinance number 7? Not, clerk, will you please call the roll on suspension?
Mr. Morton?
Aye.
Mr. Stuchel?
Aye.
Mr. Edwards?
Aye.
Ms. Hausfeld?
Aye.
Mr. Schildmeyer?
Aye.
Mr. Culbertson?
Aye.
And Mr. Estep?
Aye.
7 ayes, no nays, motion carries. Members of council, what is your pleasure on adoption?
Mr. President,
Mr. Morton?
I'd like to motion that we adopt ordinance number 7, 2024.
I'll second that.
Motion by Mr. Morton, second by Mr. Culbertson, to adopt ordinance number 7, 2024. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Morton?
Aye.
Mr. Stuchel?
Aye.
Mr. Edwards?
Aye.
Ms. Hausfeld?
Aye.
Mr. Schildmeyer?
Aye.
Mr. Culbertson?
Aye.
And Mr. Estep?
Aye.
7 ayes, no nays, motion carries. Ordinance number 7, 2024 is adopted as read. Clerk, will you please give the first reading of ordinance number 8, 2024?
Ordinance number 8, 2024, amending the St. Bernard Codified Ordinances, Section 105-1, division into wards, and declaring an emergency.
Members of council, you've heard the first reading of ordinance number 8, 2024. What is your pleasure?
Mr. President,
Mr. Schultmeyer.
I'll make a motion to suspend with the second and third reading of ordinance number 8, 2024.
Seconded.
Motion by Mr. Schultmeyer, second by Mr. Morton, to suspend with the second and third reading of ordinance number 8, 2024. Are there any remarks? Not, is there anyone in the audience wishing to address council on ordinance 8? Not, clerk, will you please call the roll on suspension?
Mr. Morton?
Aye.
Mr. Stuchel?
Aye.
Mr. Edwards?
Aye.
Ms. Hausfeld?
Aye.
Mr. Schildmeyer?
Aye.
Mr. Culbertson?
Aye.
And Mr. Estep?
Aye.
7 ayes, no nays, motion carries. Members of council, what is your pleasure on adoption?
Mr. President,
Mr. Stuchel.
make a motion we adopt ordinance number 8, 2024.
Second it.
Motion by Mr. Stuchel, second by Mr. Culbertson, to adopt ordinance number 8, 2024. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Morton?
Aye.
Mr. Stuchel?
Aye.
Mr. Edwards?
Aye.
Ms. Hausfeld?
Aye.
Mr. Schildmeyer?
Aye.
Mr. Culbertson?
Aye.
And Mr. Estep?
Aye.
7 ayes, no nays, motion carries. Ordinance number 8, 2024 is adopted as read. All right, at this time, does anyone on council have anything under old business?
Yes, Mr. President.
Ms. Hausfeld.
I just wanted to, I noticed during the scout reading, let me get my notes. On April the 2nd, which is this coming Tuesday at 6 p.m., the safety committee is having a meeting. The police chief, fire chief, and I believe the mayor will be here, just to let the residents put their concerns out there as far as the police and fire departments and what's going on in the city. So I just wanted to reiterate there is a meeting this coming Tuesday, April 2nd, 6 p.m. in council chambers with the safety committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else under old business? This time I'll entertain a motion from someone to go into executive.
Mr. President, given the length of the meeting this evening and the need to get people to Dairy Queen, I withdraw my request to go into executive session. I will bring back council COUNSEL to discuss the pending litigation with us following committee of the whole. Thank you.
Thank you. And does anyone on council have anything under new business then? If not, is there anyone in the audience wishing to address council this evening? Please state your name and address for the record.
Tom Cunningham, 702 East Ross. I'm requesting that the village erect signs on East Ross Avenue heading both eastbound downhill toward Bond Hill and westbound downhill toward Vine that read no engine brake. There have been some large trucks recently engaging what is called a Jake brake, where they use the engine compression to slow down the vehicle, and that emits a large stuttering noise. And I've noticed that that is happening more frequently. And I've noticed these signs are up around other areas of Cincinnati, and I don't believe our village would have a problem engaging with that. Second, I would like to request an increase in the street lighting on Washington Avenue between Tower and Vine. I've noticed one light up at the corner of Tower and Washington, and the rest of the block is as dark as a tunnel. And I realize this has been years in the making, and that I just recently realized this problem, but I'm hoping this can be remedied. And lastly, I have an idea to increase parking in the city parking lot at Vine and Burtis, and I've discussed this with Mr. Paul, and I'll be happy to discuss this with any member of council or the mayor that wishes to hear my idea. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. President.
Mayor?
So we can discuss the parking further. The no engine brake signs, I mean, that's something that can easily be dealt with. And we are actually already addressing the lighting issue on Washington. One of the things that we actually had discussed, and I've been in, constant conversation with the schools and have a better idea, or with the school and have a better idea with what lighting is actually going to be erected on their property. So now knowing that there is going to be a need on the village side to do something to increase for safety purposes on our side, because if it's done on their side, and actually Mr. Schildmeyer can actually better there is such thing as light pollution. And so when I suggested that we actually do more on both sides, that would jeopardize their project and how they're certified. So we need to do more on the village property, whether that be looking at street lights, actually something similar to what's on Vine, or even actually installing lighting that is actually on our buildings. So with the increase of our village events that we will be holding on Washington Avenue, there is a desperate need for that, and also just for the general safety for the citizens that are traveling when there isn't an event either way. So I did at least get enough information from the school as to what they will have. So that is something that we are already addressing.
And Mr. Cunningham, my assumption would be that the Norwood Lateral has a lot to do with the trucks, but I don't think putting those signs up, even if it's on a temporary basis, but you're talking quite a few months for that project, so I think we will definitely look into doing that.
I agree with you on the traffic from the Norwood Lateral. When they close westbound, I'm anticipating a great increase in traffic going past my house, as evidenced by 10 years ago or so when the Norwood Lateral ramp to southbound 75 was completely replaced, and it was almost impossible to get in and out of my driveway. So with westbound coming up closing, I'm anticipating that to be repeated again. Thank you.
I agree, thank you. Anyone else in the audience wish to address council?
Mr. President,
Mr.
if
Mayor.
I could have one brief response on that. So I think it's easy enough for us to erect the signs. So one thing I will verify, and I'll address with the law director and the police chief. If we're just actually just throwing signs up as a kind request, but I need to verify if indeed that's something that we have to have documented within our codified ordinances regarding the prohibiting of engine brakes.
I'll look into that and I'll get back to you. Thank you.
Anyone else? If not, I know a group of people that really want to get out of here and go get some ice cream. So the next committee of the whole will be on Thursday, is April 11th at 7 p.m. And the meeting will start with a public hearing on upcoming grant projects throughout the village. With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. President, make a motion, we adjourn so we can get to Dairy Queen.
Seconded.
A motion by Mr. Culbertson, second by Mr. Morton to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?